Welcome back to some new petty revenge stories. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Subway Karens. On a day I was off work, I was craving a sandwich at lunchtime on a hot day. I traveled to the nearest Subway and got in line. It was noontime. There were quite a few of people in line, and as many places, they seemed understaffed. The young teenage girl was the only one to make sandwiches, while our manager was ringing up the orders when not helping with condiments. So while waiting in line with like 6 others, I was behind a group of 3 old ladies, the Karens. It came time to have their sandwiches made, and of course, every one of them wanted a very custom sandwich. This meat, that cheese, it's a little too much. I want it toasted off. That is too much. I want to switch the bread. On and on. It was annoying as the one girl tried to keep up, but was getting frustrated and stressed. Then the manager stepped over, trying to help, but these women, they were not happy with anything. After 15 minutes of making each of these ladies sandwiches, it finally came time to pay. Down to the register they went, as my meatball sub was quickly made and passed down. I am plain bread, meat and sauce. A little ranch. So I waited behind them. The manager rang up the old beds, and when the total came out to around $30-ish, they went off again. I'm not saying that they started to squeal. We waited forever to be served, and then you two couldn't even make a sandwich. We want it free, they whined. I was fed up with it, and after it continued for a few minutes, I stepped up and said I'd take the sandwiches and add them to mine. The old crows grinned and thought they had won. I paid for the 4 sandwiches now and added my drink and chips. After my card was approved and I was handed my receipt, I picked up my newly 4-bought sandwiches and got my drink. As I started paying, the old ladies went to sit at a table. After getting my drink, I headed to the door to leave with my food in hand. Excuse me? You have our food still. Are you not going to bring it to us? Receipt in hand, holding it up. Nope, I paid my money for my food and will take them back to work. As I headed to the door, they got up and chased me out the door, which I didn't mind. The staff had enough of them, and I can take some abuse from crazies. You need to give us our food, or we will call the cops and have you arrested. I knew this was dumb, but as I said, nothing better on a day off. Please be my guest. I assure you they won't be doing anything about this. One of them started to pull out a phone and call. The others began telling me how I must love stealing from old ladies and how they knew this person or that person, and I would be in jail for a long time. Well, they called. I stood there not saying a word, which is hard to do being belittled, but I had the store crowd watching by this point. Soon enough, a few units pulled in, and as they got out, a look of confusion crossed their face. Are you the guy they called about? Because you matched the description. Yeah, I am. What did they call in on me? You stole their sandwiches and demanded money from them. Well, look into it. Ask the clerk and manager who paid for the sandwiches and look at this receipt. One officer walked in, spoke with the store and watched the video, while the other listened to these women insinuate that I took the food from them. The shock was priceless once the other came out and confirmed I paid for them, and the store also wanted the free trespass for a disturbance. I was released to leave, but decided to go back in and eat. The 3 were banned and left with an even more sour look, and the manager brought over a cookie, telling me it was on her. The next story is called Following Guidelines. I used to be a janitor at a small school. Most of the people were nice, but in a building of hundreds, there are bound to be a few characters. There was this narrow staircase with a small break in the middle. Only one person could go up at a time. And if there were 2 people approaching each other, then one had to step aside. Well, I started my workday, carrying the supplies to restock the bathrooms. I hear a staff member coming down, so I stepped on the side to let her pass. I heard her quietly mutter rude words towards me as she walked past. Fast forward 3 months. I was cleaning the second, smaller building. There was a special lost and found bucket that was only for the second building, but it was kept in a secluded cupboard that no one knew about. So I would just transfer all the belongings from there to the main reception, since belongings kept in that cupboard would go uncollected. Well, I saw this fancy purse there. I should give it to the main reception. But you know what? According to the operating guidelines, it goes in the buildings lost and found. this secluded lost and found, which no one knows anything about. So I put it there and kept working. I saw her with a new purse a few days later. A few months later, I handed in my notice and started a new job. The purse still in that cupboard. The third story is called Reported for Helping. This happened in the 80s to Jack. Jack worked for the county and had many duties, including plowing snow. He was assigned the more remote roads in our area, and he had a pretty efficient route. It still took him 3+ hours to do one loop, so it wasn't uncommon for him to be out most of the day with a steady dose of snow. Our township was littered with pockets of neighborhoods, 20 to 40 houses, separated by anywhere from 2 to 10 miles of back roads. One snowy morning he started his route as usual. He hit the first neighborhood. Done. Then the next stretch of road. Done. And then into the next neighborhood. In that neighborhood he came upon a guy, Steve, that got his car stuck while pulling out of his driveway. Jack, being the nice guy he is, hopped out and helped Steve get out of the ditch. Steve was grateful, because he would have otherwise been late for work, and off they both ran. Later that day, the county received a call from Steve. Not to thank Jack for helping out, but to complain about his car being damaged and demanded the county pay for it. According to Steve, in the process of being saved from the ditch, Steve's bumper was dinged. Jack said he didn't notice anything wrong with his bumper or anything else with his car. If there was something, it could have easily happened when the guy went into the ditch. Regardless, a report was officially filed, and Jack had to have a short meeting with his manager. Other than that, Jack wasn't reprimanded, but that didn't stop Jack from dishing a little revenge. He altered his route so that Steve's neighborhood was always last, and would often skip Steve's road entirely if Jack knew he would be back later in the day for a final pass. He also admitted that he would do his best to add a bit more snow at the end of his driveway, without it being too obvious. Hey, someone has to be last. Might as well be Steve. The next story is called Stolen Clothes. Years ago, I owned a laundromat on a busy metered street with only on-street parking available. I owned multiple locations and had a few maintenance trucks for the help to service my location, plus property I owned here and there. For whatever reason, I had to leave one of my trucks in a parking spot in front of my store overnight. The next morning, we found someone had stolen the battery, and worse, had cut out the radiator as well, rendering the truck immobile. We called the police. They came, took a report, and then wrote me an expired meter ticket and told me to get the truck towed or keep feeding the meter. Thank you very much. Anyway, word filters in that a certain person was seen that night fiddling with my truck. He lived in a boarding house down the street and worked the street daily with a stolen shopping cart scavenging for scrap metal. He had a non-working truck parked in front of his building, and sure enough, my stuff was in the bed of his truck, so I just took my stuff back. This guy was a regular customer of my laundromat, and we were always friendly, so I was shocked this guy would do this to me. This was a pretty tight-knit area, so everyone soon knew what happened, but I never confronted him. Well, a few days later, he came in to do his laundry. 2 top loaders worth. Pretty much all the clothes he had, I suspect. As usual, he would load up, start the washers and take off down the street to the local coffee shop. But on this day, someone came in while he was gone and stole all his clothes, leaving him with only the clothes he was wearing. I told him we didn't see a thing, and our laundromat was not responsible for unattended clothes. For days he walked around the neighborhood, moaning about someone stealing his clothes from the laundromat. Everybody had a hard time keeping a straight face. The last story is called Wrongfully Towed. About a year ago, my boyfriend was towed from our apartment complex lot. I guess they didn't look for his parking permit before deciding to tow him in the middle of the night. After he explained it to the leasing office, they called the company and told him to release his car at no charge. When he showed up to claim his car, the employee threatened to call the cops if he didn't pay up. And this whole ordeal ended up costing him $250 plus lost wages. He called me to tell me all this when he finally made it to work, and I flipped out. My mom always taught me that sometimes you have to be a real rich to get things done. And for the first time in my life, I decided to be a bit of a Karen. The company that owns our apartment complex also owns hundreds in this area, and they have a contract with this towing company for most of their properties. After figuring this out, I called the main office of the company that owns our apartment and eventually got transferred to the owner. She was absolutely appalled at what happened and told me she would call them and give me updates. In the meantime, I called the tow company and chewed them out so badly they initially hung up on me, until I called a second time and asked to speak to whoever was in charge. The manager told me he would review the security footage and get back to me. After I spoke to the tow company, the leasing company called me back. They said that they were at the end of their rope with the sheer amount of mistakes this tow company has made, and their contract was in jeopardy. They mentioned they are working on getting a refund and to document if there was any damage to the vehicle. The manager of the towing company called me back moments later, apologized and offered to hand deliver a check for the full refund amount. I haven't seen the tow trucks in our lot ever since. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.